for my life upon the road. I'm still looking for some gold at the end of my rainbow. Yes, and someday I will find her on a Parkway blue blinder. On a Parkway blue blinder. Someday I will find her. Yes, and someday I will find her on a Parkway blue blinder. On a Parkway blue blinder. On a Parkway. On a Parkway on an autumn day. Yes, and leaves fall like confetti in a New York parade. On the Parkway on an autumn day. Yes, and leaves fall like confetti in a New York parade.
And welcome everybody to this Sunday night edition of Scenic City Sports Podcast, brought to you by all of our all-star sponsors, but none more important than Gary Thacker Insurance. Welcome Rusty, Scott, and Rob in Studio X. Joining us tonight, Coach Chad Barger of your Eastridge Pioneers. Coach, welcome to the set. We got a nice little piece of news when Coach came in here earlier. We found out that he is indeed a wrestling fan as well. So if we do decide to go in that direction, we know that we have another.
Now he said he was old school, but when he didn't go
He
back
still
to
knows.
he didn't go Fargo and Yamamoto. Old
That's
school.
true old school.
I don't think he was.
Yamamoto,
You do remember.
Yes.
Big Haystacks Calhoun fan.
Here's your
that is.
trivia question real quick. What is Tojo Yamamoto's real name?
I thought it was Tojo Yamamoto.
His real name
Don.
was Harold Watanabe. Was his real, and the only reason I remember that is because Red Zone Ron told me that one
Harold
time.
Watanabe.
Yeah, Harold Watanabe was his real name.
Watanabe.
Yep.
There's a great story.
Well.
I can't remember who told it to me. It might have been David Stevenson. I can't remember. He said that apparently Tojo was wrestling in Boaz, Alabama.
Oh, man.
And this was like in the 60s. And said he gets in front of the crowd and he starts giving this real eloquent speech and tears well up in his eyes. And he's like, I'm sorry, because he was a bad guy. And he, I guess, trying to get people on his side. And I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for that. And said the crowd's just eating it up and almost crying with him. And he's like, and then I'm sorry that Japanese not bomb Boaz, Alabama instead.
He turned heel again.
He apologized for the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor and then said he should have bombed Boaz, Alabama instead.
Alabama.
And they just turned on him real quick.
What were they going to get down there? The Vanity Fair factory? I think it's down in Boaz.
I haven't been to Boaz in 45 years.
Well,
probably.
Coach, welcome to the show. Obviously, we hope that the gentleman that blindfolded you and threw you in the van and brought you to the secret location weren't too rough with you. But happy to have you on here. I'm going to turn the questioning over to my two colleagues here who handle that part of it. But we're glad to have you.
You guys glad to be here.
Yeah, Chad. Start with Scott over. Ask Chad whatever you want to. He probably got an answer.
I'll have an answer for
How's
something.
it feel to be in East Ridge?
Well, I mean, we've enjoyed it. This is actually my 7th year there.
Yeah.
4th year as the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Tim brought me in. We worked a few years together. Then he decided he was going to go be part of the central office crowd and become really. I mean, and you can't say too many great things because Tim he's East Ridge, and that's what he is, and we know that he's the guy that kind of made the whole thing run. And to have an advocate for athletics in Hamilton County with Coach James there, man, that's a great thing to have, and hopefully for the future of athletics in our county.
Kind of run down your background because we've known you for 20 years or more now, but just kind of run down the background where you've been.
Oh man, well of course I played football in the Valley. I played at Bledsoe County High School. Went on and played a little college ball at Cumberland University. Finished my degree at UTC. Started coaching. Of course, I volunteered with my brother. The first job I ever had was when I stopped playing college ball. Came back to UTC. He was the middle school football coach at Bledsoe County Middle, and we coached a year together there. That was fun. Let me just tell you. And cool story, quick story there. Never seen a head coach ever get thrown out in front of the school crowd during a day game playing football.
I can believe
but
that.
my brother did.
I know. I can believe. I'd have took that bet. I would have took that bet.
We had a call that kind of went against us, and we were on the goal line. And he gets 2 back-to-back 15-yarders for arguing with the officials and things. Gets ejected. One of our assistant coaches gets the same treatment, and we go from 3rd and goal at like the 4 to 3rd and goal from like the 47,
now it's
48-yard line.
It's your turn to call plays.
Here I am. I'm like 20 years old, and we're like, well, we got to get this thing. We got to get this over with. So I think we call it trap. So we just tried to run trap. But from there, I went to Bledsoe County High for a year. Helped my former head coach, Coach Dickie Brown, who kind of guided us, and we still, and he's legit. He's, like I said, he was the. I had my dad next to my dad, and Coach Brown was that guy that really influenced us. Then my first paid assisting job was at Sequatchie County High School under John Mackersy. Then I left Mackersy, took my first head coaching job at the ripe age of 27. I was at Cannon County for 3 years. We worked hard on that program. The job came back open in Sequatchie about the time my wife's grandmother got terminally ill, so we came back to the Valley. I took over and was the head coach at Sequatchie from 2008 to 2012. Left there, went to Clay County High School for a year, and got an interesting phone call. I wish I'd have, hindsight being 2020, probably should have stayed where I was at. But Cahulla Creek called, and that was when the whole big fiasco that happened with Vic Ryder and all that stuff went on. I went down there. Great kids.
New program.
Not good when you're playing Calhoun, Adairsville, and Ringgold and those guys on a weekly basis. So left there, came back to Tennessee. Worked a little bit at Grundy County for Casey Tate, then went back to Sequatchie, then made it back to East Ridge, and then that's where I'm at. So I've kind of been around the world, and this will be my 27th year coaching, 25th year teaching. But overall, we're pretty excited about what we can do at East Ridge.
And you talked about Tim James. Prior to that, Tim played for his dad, Coach James. And I bragged about your field the other day. I've always bragged about that field. And Coach James, Tim's dad, who I'm talking about, did such a crazy good job of putting that field in. And for any field that has just been able to maintain its good looks through the decades, it's East Ridge.
Well,
it's East Ridge.
Well, Tim has done, Tim did a great job when he was there. I mean, he was the guy that manicured that thing and kept it up. And then, I have an assistant coach on staff, Joe McCrary, he lives basically a half a mile away from the school. And he really helps me out since I don't live a half a mile away from the school. Yeah. But, he really helps us out with the manicuring of the field. And we keep that thing fertilized and cut and sprayed and, whatever it takes. And, right now, like I said, it's basically like a carpet. But if you walk on our campus and you see our football facilities, we're second to none public school in Hamilton County. Our field house, our weight room, our new things that Tim had got really built like it's immaculate.
That was my next question. I asked you, how much does the field house help that program out?
I mean, it's great. These kids actually, we're not working at what we call the dungeon anymore.
Yeah,
we're out in the, we're not in that little place. It's basically the basement of the building
of the gym.
Yeah, and you got those cockroaches that'll stand up and look you in the eye. But the move there
Got
to
you
have
for their turn on the bench press.
Oh, absolutely. But they have their own locker room. We have a home for them, and that's the key. Because there, when I first came with Tim, we were dressing in the gym, in locker rooms in the gym, and then when COVID hit, you had to split them up because you couldn't have too many in one place. So we had the old gym locker rooms and the new gym locker rooms, upperclassmen in one group, underclassmen in the other, and you're moving everywhere, and you had the little dungeon, so to speak. You had to work out in pods. So it was definitely a
And prior to that,
different
I don't
deal.
know if you ever got the luxury of going underneath the bowels of the stadium there,
Lord.
where they had all that for decades, and that was amazing architectural design in its day.
Right.
But then 40 years later, UTC had that same design down there on campus. So I don't know if you ever got exposed to that.
Not at East Ridge, but like when I was in high school, we played at the old field in Sequatchie County. So when you go to Sequatchie, it was the city field right in the middle away from the school, and that's where the locker rooms were at. And you had this little opening that you had to squat down and come out from there onto the field. And bad thing is it was under the home stands. And you walk out, and basically your student section from Sequatchie County was right behind you as you're crawling single file out of that little chute, So it was definitely
And we'll give
different thing.
Sequatchie some props. When they built their new facility over,
my.
that's really nice.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean it's a great place, to be. You go out your practice field across from the field house. You have the field right out of the field house. Everything is there. And you can credit a lot of people, but Mr. Johnny Cordell was the superintendent there for ever and ever that really got a lot of that stuff taken care of. And his big thing was everything on that school, everything in that area was going to look the same. When it was going to you're not going to throw just a ticky tack little building here
Well, for
or
folks,
there.
but for folks over here that don't migrate over there much and see those facilities, they'd be pleasantly surprised how nice they are.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And being small town football. I mean, that's the thing about the whole valley. As you drove through, if you played in it, coached in it, you shut down on Friday nights.
Yes.
Those towns, are shut down. Everybody comes to the game, and they're there early. Can get interesting at times. I can remember, when big games were coming up, and I was at Sequatchie, we'd do our field walk at around 5-ish, and you look up in the stands, there's people already putting their stuff down, getting everything ready. 2 hours before game time, they're getting their seats, and they're out there shouting at the coach, give them heck and whatever. And some of them are a little more inebriated than the others, but it does happen.
You mean the concession had already opened?
The concession was open, but I don't know if we actually sold what they had.
But you're right. I was in Pikeville last year at a birthday party for some of my wife's family, and it was the night of the big playoff game up there.
Yeah.
And I mean, once 6:30 hit, the restaurant cleared out. And there was it was like a ghost town.
Yes.
Except right down the street. And you could just see the line of cars and everything. And I had to go somewhere else that night for work back home, but I really just wanted to go to that game.
Yeah.
I was like, it's right there, man. I just want to be in that.
Coach, you being in those other areas, you've been exposed to what he's talking about. And when he's talking about the valley, he's talking about from South Pitt to Marion County to Whitwell to all of that treats that area. But so does a lot of North Georgia situations. But Hamilton County is a little bit of a different breed, I think, when it comes to that. And I'm not saying it's all bad. It's just that there's a lot of folks doing other things besides being at a community school on Friday nights, as opposed to some of these smaller areas.
Right. A lot more to do. I mean, I know that sounds crazy. That's the easy answer. There's a lot more things that's offered on Friday nights than high school football in a lot of other areas, and especially in Chattanooga. I mean, you've got the whole nightlife, everything downtown. There's so many things to do. And that has a lot to do with it, I think, as much as anything.
But they're missing out.
But they're missing out.
They're missing
I'm telling you, the brand of football that's been coming through that that we're trying to instill into our kids is very similar to like the Valley stuff that we talk about. I bring that up with our kids about the physicality and how we've got to learn to play very physical. And my argument with them is that if we can't play physically on offense, you're not going to be physical on defense. So we have to push both sides of the ball to be physical on both sides of the ball. And that's not it's getting more and more uncommon, especially with teams that spread it out and throw it all over the place and run that high tempo things. A lot of times they're not as physical. And just my opinion, if you're not very physical on offense, you're not going to be very physical on defense.
Take a moment, tell us your staff.
Okay.
Get those get some props on those guys, because you've been an assistant. You got a lot of assistants now, and they don't get their names mentioned enough, do they?
No, they really don't. I mean, that's the thing, man. We've got good guys on our staff, and they work hard, they work well together. We're starting to gel a little bit. So we'll start with our defense coordinator is DeAndre Chambliss. DeAndre played at East Ridge. He's been with me now. This will be year 4, I think, because I think these seniors are his group that he's been with for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So DeAndre does a good job for us, and he's there every day, and the kids look up to him. He's a good role model, because you've got the fact that we've got several guys on our staff that are East Ridge alumni. So they're pouring back in, and that's a big thing, because it means something to them, and it helps for the kids to see that it means something, with East Ridge. I always tell them all the time. I said, how are we going to leave our legacy or our mark? East Ridge football is going to be there long after I'm gone and they're gone and everybody else, but how are you going to leave your mark, and how are you going to be, what are your 4 years going to look like? So, we try to really enforce the whole idea of everything being bigger. We have Joe McCrary, who helps coach O-line, D-line. Joe helps take care of the fields. Joe is also an East Ridge alumni. He also is the head baseball coach. So Joe's there. He's a guy that really helps me out a lot, especially when it comes to things like with the field maintenance and stuff. And since I live so far away from our staff, he's invaluable. Then, of course, I have the myth, the legend of John Goddard on our staff. Coach Goddard is the man. I mean, he's our athletic director as well, and he's coached basketball in multiple places. And, he's the old hat, so to speak, at East Ridge. He's been there for a long time. And, John helps coach the O-line and D-line as well. And John takes care of a lot of clerical things for me. And understanding football, and I tell these young coaches all the time, I said, you want to be a head coach until you're there. Because head coaching is not, you think, it's just X's and O's. It's really not. There's nowhere near. I mean, that's all I want to do is the X's and O's anymore. But that's not what you deal with. It's all paperwork and clerical stuff, and dealing with parents, and dealing with fundraising, and dealing with money, and scheduling, and just your time is taken with other things. And to have a good staff that can take charge, so to speak, and get those kids on the field. So we have a couple other guys. We have Kayshawn Cozy, who also played at East Ridge, played at Emory. He's now coaching our running backs and our secondary. Kayshawn has a passion. He also helps with wrestling. And the dude was a heck of a wrestler, and
he was.
And he Kayshawn does a great job with our kids too. And and he, like I said, these guys are good role models too, because they've been at East Ridge. They were East Ridge. They've gone off, graduated college, are doing something with themselves, and our kids are seeing that, and that's a positive for us to have that. And new to the staff this year is Justin Houston. Justin comes to us. He played at Bradley. Was a Hall of Famer at Tusculum. He coaches our receivers. He coaches our outside overhangs. Really helps me offensively, because here in the last few years, we've really not had a lot of offensive-minded guys on our coaching staff, and I've kind of had to do offense a lot by myself. And Justin's really come in, and I can sit and kind of throw and bounce stuff off of him, with more of an offensive-minded guy. And that's going to help us, I think, not only in the passing game, because he was a receiver and stuff like that, but I think just overall, and he's done a tremendous job with us early on of being able to find his spot, and being able to start communicating with the kids and holding kids accountable, and and just the self-discipline that he has. It's kind of being a good role model. And give him a shout out. He just became a daddy a couple of weeks ago. He and his wife had their first child, so and that's another thing.
And he's an assistant football coach.
And he's assistant football coach, and he's going to be our head girls flag football coach too.
Oh,
so
let's just keep piling on.
That's what we're trying to do. But and he has to understand. That was the thing I told him the other day. After we got kind of rained out there and stuff, and we're all lingering in there, I said, "Dude, go home." I was like, go.
Because you ain't getting a chance in the next 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to try, we're going, and that's a big thing, man. My girls grew up at the football field. I have a 25-year-old and a 21-year-old. They grew up being water girls. Funny story, my youngest sent me a text that explained what the NFL water, people, water girls and the water boys and water girls make.
What they get paid?
What they get paid between $50,000 and $60,000. And she said, "Dad, I think you owe me some compensation." So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, I mean,
Sure.
I agree.
it is what it is. But I wouldn't give that up for the world. I mean, watching my girls be around it and being on the field or in the gym, both of them were tremendous basketball players, and they were little dynamites at 5. Both of them were 5 feet even. But they're little dynamos on the basketball court, just watching them play. And, I'm proud of them now. My oldest is going to be teaching first grade in Sequatchie County. And my youngest has another year of college, and she's going to go to PA school. So, you've got to be proud of where those kids are at.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Let's talk about this current team. What numbers are we looking at so far?
Right now, I've got about 33 strong that's been showing up. We're like I said, it's about 7 or 8 more kids than we had last year. I have some of the freshmen have told me some of their buddies that played middle school are wanting to come out, but they're afraid they're not going to come out till school starts. Which I guess that's okay. But the big thing is, normally when school starts, you don't let too many come out. But the big thing is we let new upcoming freshmen or transfers. Now, if you've been there and you knew about it and you got calendars and you could have went through spring and all that, that's not, we kind of say no to those guys that decide they want to try to come out late after missing all the work that these guys have been putting in since June. And we ask a lot of our kids in the summer.
And all schools do.
And all schools do.
They do.
And the thing is, that's part of it, and you kind of earn your spot, and that's a big thing. We want to just kind of create that blue collar work ethic, and have our kids understand that nothing in life is just going to be handed to you. It's really hard to get teenagers to understand that in these day and time. So the big thing is we want to try to teach them what it's like to earn something through hard work, because it's much more important.
Where you at on when we talk numbers? I think you said you lost 4 seniors.
Yes, sir.
What are we returning?
Oh man, we're returning
In that respect.
starting quarterback, a couple of our running. Basically what we lost was a couple of kids in our backfield, a couple of running backs. We lost a lineman or 2, but we've got 3 linemen returning that were starters. We returned our starting quarterback. I think we added it up. I think it's 7 guys on both sides of the ball that we returned.
That's better than last year.
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir.
So you feel better about the situation?
I absolutely do, man. These kids have put some time in. They've worked hard, and I think it's the point where they don't feel like 2 years ago we made the playoffs. A lot of people didn't realize, hey, we went on a little streak there, got ourselves in the playoffs, and won the award a reward of going to Upperman. So,
Yeah.
But
Congratulations to that bus ride.
Yeah, no kidding. But
and Upperman's a program that struggled for years and years too. I remember Upperman struggled to win a game.
But I think
They
that
did.
year he's talking
And
about, I
they
think
turned it
they were in the state.
They won. They got
Yeah.
beat. They got beat by Pearl Cone.
Pearl Cone.
When they beat, they got beat like off of onside kick. But Coach Kane up there does a great job. Of course, he was at Sequatchie. I've known Adam for a while, and they do a good job up there. He gets, I think that a lot of times what helped Upperman sometimes is I think the program, the Cookville program kind of went downhill a little bit, and they were getting kids on that end of the county.
Is that where that's at?
Yes, sir. It's in Putnam County.
Yeah.
So they're getting some of those kids that normally would have went to Cookville.
Well, Cookville was
So-
always a big school.
Oh, it's
in numbers.
huge. It's 6A.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they were getting some of those kids, and and then they had a run. It's just like any other smaller area. You have runs where you get really good kids, and you're going to be good for several years. And then if you graduate a bunch, it happened to us at Sequatchie. We had a pretty good run for 4 years that I was there, and we had back-to-back years where you graduate 19 seniors. You don't do that often in 3A football. 19 and 19 back to back, and then
that's a lot.
Then we ended up playing a bunch of freshmen and not having as good a year. So.
And I'm sure you're with 33 out, maybe more. You'll let come out. You're concerned with some depth.
Oh, absolutely.
But most schools around here are.
Well, even a lot of times, even if your numbers are in the 40s, close to 50, many times you're really concerned about quality depth. So, I mean, you can have a lot of guys on the team, but you still may not have that quality depth that you definitely need to make runs. So, depth is an issue, but I feel good about what we've got. Our kids work hard. They're good kids, and we'll see what happens the next few weeks.
defensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
How are we looking?
We're going to be, we tweaked a little bit. We're going to be more of a 3-3, trying to use more of our athletic ability on the field and start moving around a little more. I think we've got some linebackers that'll go get you. We have senior D'Angelo Bloodsaw at Mike, and then we have the Strickland brothers, right? Harry and Harley inside. That Harley was our leading tackler last year as a 9th grader. So he's got some experience, but still super young, and he's a go-getter. And his brother Harry's basically played for us, and seems like he's been there since I have almost. But Harry's been a staple for us on the field for basically 4 years, because he got some playing time in special teams and things as a freshman, and then from sophomore year on, that
Now,
kid's
you just
been on
said
the field.
something. Your leading tackler last year was a freshman.
Yes, sir, it is.
But that's odd. But it's great that he's coming back.
No, absolutely. He's a good football player and a good kid. So, he's going to be a guy by the time he's a junior or senior, people don't really notice, especially if he stays in that weight room and gets stronger and bigger. I mean,
tell me about the region. How's it shaping up, the teams in there, and who's going to be your toughest competition?
well, I mean, our region's always going to be pretty tough. I mean, Loudon won it last year. I know they've lost quite a bit of kids, but Red Bank has always got athletes and always have good coaching with one of my favorite people in the world, Ted Gatewood. Ted does a tremendous job at Red Bank, and
If I'm not mistaken, I think Ted is the seniority coach in the public school system in Chattanooga.
he may be.
I think he is.
Yep, I think he might be. But and then I think they got a few transfers in.
I heard that.
from,
I heard
from
some
Chat Prep
transfer
and
coming
things that will really kind of boost them. So I mean, you're looking at if you wanted to say, I'd say if somebody says early preseason, people would probably pick Red Bank as that team. Loudon's always going to be good. They're well coached. Coach Herrick does a great job there. Hickson, they're always going to be tough. Coach Rivers, those guys, two of those guys, his offensive coordinator was my quarterback when I coached at Sequatchie. He's also related to me. He probably didn't want me to say that, but
You
yeah,
threw him under the bus.
Sean does a great job there. And then, of course, Sam Montgomery was on my staff at Sequatchie. Sam and I played college football together. We've known each other, probably 30 years. And, he does their O-line, D-line. So he's got a really good coaching staff over there at Hicks. And
Wasn't Sam Montgomery at Central?
he was at Central as the head coach for a year. He sure
Okay.
was. But Sam, they do a good job, man. And, we're going to be – it's going to be interesting. And Sequoia, we don't really know because they got another new coach. I mean, it seems like they're going through some struggles. But, I always thought that they had, good-looking kids. I mean, they're always big, physical-looking kids. And you never know kind of what you get. And if they ever got it turned around, man, they could be pretty tough.
We covered you a few years ago. Late in the season, you and Hickson had a really good season. You won that game everywhere except the scoreboard.
Yes, sir, we did.
Up and down, up and down, up
our
and
quarterback
down.
threw it backwards.
Threw it backwards. They
Yeah.
run it in for a touchdown.
I appreciate that, Bob. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, it was
Not a sore
one of
spot or
those
nothing.
interesting games, and you were frustrated
Yeah,
that night. I
yeah.
picked up on that, but it was
Turnovers killed us.
it was turnovers.
Yeah, turnovers killed us in that game because we also drove down. If you remember, one time we drove down and we went to snap the football, and it went the center. I don't know if it slipped out of his hands or not. But they recovered the football. I mean, he snapped it and it didn't even move. The ball didn't move, but his hand did. Like the ball stayed exactly where it was at, and I'm like, how does that even happen? But it was
But
just
from
one
the
of those
20
nights.
to 20, you won the game, but
we
you
did.
didn't
Yes,
win the
sir.
scoreboard.
You're exactly right. Yep. And that would have actually placed us third, and they would have finished fourth if we'd have won that game.
That's right.
But they ended up finishing second and hosting the first round playoff game.
That's right.
Sure did. And that was all for playoff seeding. I think the final.
Yeah,
was
I don't remember
17,
what I had
14.
for lunch yesterday, but I can remember
Yeah,
that
no
event.
kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Non-region schedule. Who you got on there, and how's it going to get you ready for the?
Well, I mean, we kind of changed up a little bit. We went with more of our natural rivalries. So we're opening up with Howard at home on the 22nd. We're playing Grace Baptist at Grace Baptist the next week. Then on a Saturday, the following week, we're playing at Brainerd. Then we have, of course, our non-region after that. We have Chattanooga Central back on the schedule. That'll be week 6-ish down in that way. But we also picked up Cumberland County.
Okay.
In Cumberland, we're going to play at Cumberland. Neat story there. We're going to play them on a Thursday night. I don't know. They went independent. And then, Coach Rapp called me and said, "Hey, Coach, TSSAA contacted me, and they're moving our game with you to a Thursday night." And I'm like,
That's a long drive.
"Yeah, it's a long drive from East Ridge, Crossville, and on a Thursday night."
Now, is that because of officials?
It is. I mean, every school has to have a Thursday game, and we actually have one. Our last game of the year is on a Thursday
Well,
night.
it's one thing to stay at home. It's another thing to take a 2-hour bus
Exactly.
ride on a school
Yeah,
night.
we're seeing the same thing in Georgia. Games get moved and stuff, and some teams are now scheduled on Thursday. I know Ringgold-Dade County is going to start on a Thursday. Lafayette-Calhoun will be on a Thursday earlier this year. But I mean, it's just one of those things. It's a fact of life. We hate it. We'd love to have more officials. We could not have to do this anymore, but you just play the hand that you're dealt.
It kind of helps me out because my oldest is getting married on October 4th, so this game is going to be moved from the 3rd to the 2nd. So I do get Friday off. And
So the
I did tell
football gods are looking at
they
you.
did. I told our principal, I was like, don't expect me to be at school on that Friday. I think I'm going to take that personal day, and and we'll take care of it that way so I can get everything prepared for the wedding. So
Yeah.
when we
And you mentioned principal. I don't know who the principal is at East Ridge right now. Share their name with me.
Mr. Juan Moreno.
One minute.
Yes, sir.
I've said it and I've said it and I said it. For programs to have success, it can't just be on the shoulders of the football coach.
Right.
It starts at the top.
Yes, sir.
There's got to be a school supporting of that football program. Community's big as well. East Ridge, and when I used to play against East Ridge, and everybody that played there back in the day, including Tim James, Mark Mariakis, they know that was a really strong community football program. And times have changed.
Yes,
times have changed for East Ridge. But to get some of that back is big for y'all.
It is. And, the easiest way to get it back is you start winning. And that's what you have to do.
People show up.
Start winning. People like to show up, and they jump on the bandwagon when you're winning.
Yep.
They jump off and throw darts at you when you're losing. So, it is what it is. We know what comes with the territory as a coach. I mean, ultimately, that's what you get judged off of. You don't get judged off of if you take this kid and take him here.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
Yeah, and those kind of things.
But
it's
you've
all
been
about
at it
the
long
wins and
enough, you
losses.
understand that.
Oh yeah.
Well, let me sneak back in with y'all for a minute, because I'll tell you something that our principal says at Lakeview, and this goes back to our superintendent said this very same thing, that football or that athletics in general is the front porch of the school.
Yes.
It is the thing out there in front of everyone that gets everyone to walk in that door, and none of that is more important than football, because it's the first thing that people in the community will ask, how y'all going to be in football this year? Yep. And then the thing about that is once one program like that starts to play well, it filters down.
And I had this conversation many decades ago now with Coach Robert Akins, and we talked about how the football program can impact the entire school building for at least the first half of the year.
Oh, absolutely.
Absentees are good from the standpoint of being down.
Yep.
People want to come and that unfortunately it flips too. If the football team is in a muck, sometimes that school is following that same formula.
Right.
Yeah, but sometimes if you have good football athletes, those football athletes may transition over and be good track athletes.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Or they may be basketball players.
Sure,
or they may, how many natural athlete kids have you seen that it gets to like their senior year and they'll look at you and be like, well, I've played on every other team this year. I think I want to play baseball.
Right.
And then the kid goes out there and plays baseball. He played since they were like 9 years old and has a phenomenal season because they're just that natural athlete.
Yeah.
And also, Coach, you've seen this, that getting off to a poor start sometimes, maybe there was some really solid winning possibilities later in that schedule, but you got kids that tend to maybe
With the confidence levels.
Yeah, their focus is down, and now we can't win those games that were certainly winnable. So getting on, and I think scheduling has a lot to do with that too.
Yeah,
now. It really does.
And we did that. If you looked at our schedule the last 2 years, especially last year, with a younger team with only 4 seniors, we opened the season with Marion County, state champion. Played week 2 at Sequatchie County, state semifinals.
Well, that's on you, Coach.
Yeah,
You
it is.
scheduled
You're
that.
exactly right. Week 3 was our first region game. That was Red Bank. Right. Week 4, we were at Loudon. Another region game. That was our region
Well, you
champion.
do struggle at some things
And then-
besides X's
yes,
and O's.
we do. It's scheduling. And then week 5 was East Hamilton at home, but they were 5A quarterfinalists. So and when you sit there and you struggle those first 5 games, and then we roll in the second half of the season, we're like, we've got a chance. But those kids had already, it kind of broke them down.
Yeah.
And that was the
They
big
gave
thing.
up on the
And
subject,
they
unfortunately.
kind of shut it down. Not saying that they didn't play hard. It was just the doubt that would creep in anytime anything close would happen, or we get close. Case in point, that last game of the year with Hickson, they had opportunity after opportunity. We were so close, but then something just would be caused because of a lack of confidence deal. Just couldn't get it done, couldn't get it finished, and we felt like had we been able to schedule a little differently.
So you understand the point.
Oh, I absolutely understand the point.
You understand the point.
But at the time when you schedule it, Marion was not the team that they were. I mean, that you're looking at.
You can get caught up
You
in
can get caught up in
pre-scheduling.
pre-scheduling.
Yeah.
It's such a delicate line. You kind of have to toe that because you don't want to make it too hard for a young team to, like you said, to lose confidence. But
Yep.
you want to make it tough enough where,
Right.
to get them experience. So if they play a game later in the year, hey, we've already played a team
Yes.
that's better than this one, and we did pretty well.
Right.
Just your thought process.
Well,
going
it's
in.
kind of that happy medium. I mean, you don't want to put a bunch of teams on there you feel like that you're just going to, run away with and,
Right, that
and
doesn't do
things.
you
That
good
doesn't
either.
do you any good either. But you also want to make sure you're competitive. But you always have one of those games. But then you always make sure one of your games would be against somebody who is going to fight you tooth and nail to help you prepare for the playoffs. But I feel like our region's that way for the most part too, though. I mean, you got Red Bank and Loudon and Hickson and Sequoia, and those guys
Did
that
you
are
leave
just
Signal
Signal
out?
Mountain. Yep,
Okay.
Signal Mountain with Mark.
Yeah.
Mark's done a phenomenal job at Signal Mountain, and those guys have become a very physical, disciplined team, and they'll get after you. And that was the thing, man. Those guys are, he's done a phenomenal job there. I think the world of Coach Mariakis, man. He's a good
Got
guy.
to see them play a little bit Saturday. They played scrimmage at LFO. They had to move it
Yeah.
from Friday because we couldn't see enough of the rain to do anything. But we did see them a little bit on Saturday.
I think I'm hearing in your voice, and you correct me if I'm wrong. You're a seasoned coach, and you know what kind of team you got. I think I hear in your voice you've got a whole lot more optimism about your team this year than maybe you had last year.
I mean, we do. I feel like we've got a chance to be really good. And we've told our kids the same thing. You've got a chance to be good. But we've got to fix some practice habits. We've got to fix some self-discipline habits. We've got to make sure we are on point at all times. To be the best that you can be, you have to constantly pursue that greatness. And you can't go through the motions, and you can't go and half butted on the practice field, and you've got to go because everybody else is.
How tough is that to get that point across to young kids that we play as we practice?
Man.
And if we're gonna lack of saying, if we're gonna half-ass it out here on the practice field, we just can't flip the switch on game night.
And that's exactly right. I mean, that's what we try to tell them. I always tell them, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if I'm like, we make our kids clean the field house. And they left it a mess on Friday because we got rained out, stormed out. So they left a few things behind. So we're gonna have that discussion with them on Monday. But
That's their house.
that's their house, and they know how they're supposed to leave it. And we didn't leave it. We didn't meet expectations. So we'll have that discussion. It'll be I'm sure it'll be super nice and friendly and things. But point taken is those little things. We preach it. Those little things.
Take
are
pride
what
in
happen.
yourself.
Take pride in
that's
everything.
that's you're preaching to them. Take pride in yourself.
Yes, take pride in everything, because, like I said, how you do one thing is going to have to be how you do everything. So if you, like I said, half butt it one place, you're going to have butt it somewhere else. Next thing you know, you're at your job. I don't feel like doing that today. I can put that off the next day. Now the boss is on your back. You're at home. Wife, you hadn't done something for the wife. Wife's on your back. Something, there's going to be a consequence for action. Every action. I even tell them, I said, it's going to be, every action is going to have a positive or a negative consequence. So everything you do will have some.
I think
sort of
that wife thing,
consequence.
he's speaking out of experience. I don't
Very
think he'd have
much so,
brought
yeah,
that
very
up if
much
he
so,
didn't.
yeah.
I believe we all know how that works, but
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took the garbage out twice today. You know,
Just to make sure you did it right.
just to see if I did it right.
That's
well,
right.
it
Yes,
is
sir.
a lot of the part of that, and I deal with that on a smaller scale because I've only got, on the boys' side and the girls' side together, I might have 16, 17 kids. But it's the same difference. If you put that shirt on and it's got that school logo on it,
Yes.
every time we go out somewhere, we represent that
Yes.
school. So I don't care if we're going down to do some kind of, volunteering, or we're going to play in a match, or we're
Yes.
going anywhere. If you put
Right.
that, you're going to wear that LFO jacket, or you're going to wear that Eastridge jacket, you better act accordingly with that on,
Yes, sir.
because the last thing in the world I want to see is one of those dadgum busted pictures pop
Yes.
up on
And they got the
Facebook.
Eastridge logo
and they're
on it.
wearing the team
At
logo,
least do
and it'll
this.
be
At
like,
least
come
cover-
on.
At least cover that thing up if you're going to do it.
Yes, I mean, and because, in this
Y'all are
modern
getting
era, boy,
personal
they
over
just, that stuff happens all the time now.
All right. If Stump Martin was here, he maybe as much as any of us, he was so crazy about uniforms. And me and Scott and Rusty talked about this a while back when we were kind of rating uniforms. Tim had this look, and it was almost an Auburn look back in the day.
It was the Auburn.
And we loved it.
They
We
changed
really-
the logo on the helmet from the AU
Yeah.
to the ER. It was the
Yeah.
Auburn
Yeah.
uniform.
Any new unis this year? Anything you can talk about?
Yeah, we actually changed the helmet. We went matte navy with the Pioneer emblem on one side. It's going to have the number on the other.
Ooh, I like
And because a lot of our
So
like
the
our
helmet's
home-
navy now.
navy.
It's been white most of
Yes,
the
sir.
time.
Yep.
Orange
And-
maybe a little bit.
And
different,
a
yeah.
lot of we've got a kind of a Syracuse look going on.
I was about to
Yeah,
bring
a
up
lot
Syracuse.
of, lot of
yeah.
navy, orange, and white together. I think we've got several uniform options, but the kids agree with me too. The navy top with our orange pant it's so much of a Syracuse look.
Okay, I would
really
buy
sharp.
in that. But I actually, and I know how difficult it is to keep white pants white long, but I think Tim had
Yes.
navy, white with some kind of striping
Yes.
down the side, and it really was. It was like Scott said, it was the Auburn look,
Right.
trimmed in orange. And those three color combinations can be pretty.
Oh, they
really can.
wonderful. Yeah, that's the thing. And Tim was skeptical. I'll tell him he's watching. I told him make sure he watches. But Tim was skeptical when we first told him about the helmet. I don't know. And then after we got it
I
painted
don't know.
up,
Well, we're not asking your
I
opinion
know,
or
but we
whatever.
got the emblem on there, and they came back, and he looked at me, he goes, that actually looks pretty good.
Ah,
I was like, yeah, well,
he's kicking himself.
We did. And actually, the idea came to me when I watched Tennessee play UTEP. Because UTEP used that matte navy helmet, had the minor on one side and the number on the other, and I thought that was just
I love
sharp
matte
as
helmets
it's
all
just
the way
sharp
around.
as all
I
get
just
out.
think they look good.
Guys, y'all don't know this, and Hamilton County Athletic Director Tim James, formerly the coach of Eastridge, they're getting a new track. And if any school needed a new track,
Yes.
that ankle breaker they had over
sir.
there,
Yeah.
y'all deserve that.
Well, we had to get rid of all the trees because
Oh.
what was happening is those roots were
That's
going
right.
in
That's
and
right.
like
And
around the third
push it
curve.
up.
Yeah.
But it was wavy.
Yeah.
So I mean, even when we practiced, we had to tell our kids if you're running a 400 or a 200, you had to stay in lane 1, 2, or 3 because if you went 4, 5, or 6, you're gonna break your ankle. So man, we're excited. It's actually got the rubber has been sprayed down. It's got a cure. Then they'll paint that thing, and then she's done.
So does that mean that the fence now is not going to be right behind you on
No,
the
it's there.
sideline?
No,
Going-
we're down at the practice
Okay.
field. Yeah, so
No.
we still got the danger zone. Yeah,
gonna
no back
say-
corner fades at East
I was about
Ridge.
to
Yeah.
say, my mom used to go walk over there at the track when I was a little kid because we lived right off Greens Lake Road, State Line Road.
Yeah.
At night in the falls, we'd be outside playing. You could hear the band. You could hear the football.
Yep.
And I never got to go to a game, but I'm like, man, that just sounds like it's exciting over
yeah.
there. What's going to be, other than winning, what's going to take to get that kind of spirit back there at East Ridge?
Numbers. I mean, winning in numbers are your magic component because obviously you got more kids on the team. It's going to bring more people and more parents and more support too. Those are the big things that we're hindered with right now, and our numbers are low. But I think that there's an optimism out there with our kids too. They're getting a little bit more confident in what we're doing and the things that we're trying to accomplish. And I think that if we can get ourselves rolling early in the season, that I think this will really change.
That's how the momentum starts to click. And I didn't mean to sound cliche-ish when I was talking about that, but I've seen teams that don't get off to a good start have the opportunity of picking up wins, and they've just kind of cashed it in before they get to that point.
It's real tough to go 6-4 when you started out
0-4.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
Right.
It is. Scott asked the question a few weeks to a coach, and I really loved it. So I'm going to let him do it again. Your question you asked Nance, for East Hamilton to have a good season.
Yeah.
Ask the Eastridge side.
I was about to say, I don't remember what that was.
Well, you did well.
Okay.
You've slept since then.
Fill in the blank. Eastridge Pioneers will have a successful 2025 season if
we stay healthy and execute the way we're supposed to. I just feel like if we can stay healthy, like I said, our numbers are low.
Right.
But if we can stay healthy, keep our kids healthy, and we execute like we're supposed to, we'll have a successful season.
And be physical.
That's the big thing. Like we were having that pre-game speech, and we were talking about it. So we have to understand that football becomes a fist fight. Not literally, but it's a fist fight. It's physical. It's grueling. It hurts. Football's not for everybody. I tell this all the time. Football's not for everybody. I mean, it's not normal for a human being to take their body and hurl it into another human being.
Yeah.
And we're, as football players, we're a little different because we kind of like that stuff. Yeah. I can't do that in the mall and things anymore because I go to jail. But the point is it takes a special human being.
Who would you hit in the mall besides a mannequin?
I don't know. These people walking,
the rest of
they
them,
won't move. When you're trying to walk, and they see this space, and they'll just stand there in front of you. But
and usually they're looking down at their phone.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And then they'll shoulder you like.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And then look at you like you're the one that made the mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Y'all go to the mall way too much.
Yeah, no kidding.
Stump Martin made the quote. I don't know if he heard it from somewhere else, but I always remember him saying it. Football is the closest thing to war that you want your sons involved in.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. It's one of those things, and I think that football is one of those sports too that teaches more about diversity in life than any other sport because, basketball's a good, tough sport to play. Soccer's a good, tough sport to play. Baseball's a good, tough sport to play. But at the end of the day, football is that pure, natural. I have to rely on every single person to do their job. 10 guys do the job on the field, one don't, you're still screwed.
And coach, most coaches in your building would tell you that I like my kids playing your sport because it's going to bring an aggressional toughness that I might not get out of them in my sport alone.
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, our basketball coach is like, yeah, coach, these guys need to be playing. We had a kid a few years ago that decided to play as a senior in football, Tyree Smith. And I hope Tyree would enjoy me saying this because he's now playing college basketball. But Tyree was a phenomenal basketball player. But I felt like by him playing football his senior year, and he wasn't scared. Like, he came out, hadn't played in forever. I think he played a little bit of football in middle school. Came out, and the kid started for us. By the end of the season, was doing great things. And my exact word to him at the end of the season was, Tyree, if you'd played for 4 years, you'd had a choice to make. Mm-hmm. Because he's 6'1", 165, 170, but that would have put him in the weight room more. So you're looking at a kid that had been 6'1", 185.
Yeah, you're giving a good point.
190. Now you got a guy who could have been one heck of a corner at the college level. Yeah. And, and he had some opportunities at small schools. I think there was a school or two that offered.
That says a lot
for both.
Because they just
so
played
they said
one
he could play that he could actually play football and basketball. And that would have been interesting. We had one guy at Cumberland that did that. He played both.
Well, but we just had a gentleman inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame this weekend that never played college football.
Yep.
Was college basketball player Antonio Gates.
Yes, Antonio Gates.
Yeah.
And NFL team saw him and said, "Hey,
my God, he was built like a brick wall."
Yep.
Did you think about playing football?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, now you're an NFL Hall of Famer. So, yeah, but there's also so many more scholarship opportunities now for football players. Yes. As there is for basketball players, just in a numbers game. 85 scholarships compared to 10, 12, something like that for basketball. Yep. If you love basketball, I get it.
Right.
And even if you don't play football in college or whatever, there's so much stuff you learn about getting tougher physically,
Yes.
mentally, that's going to help you play anything else. I hear the same thing about wrestling all the time too. Is football coaches want their kids.
Oh,
to wrestle.
absolutely. I want my kids to wrestle. I mean, that's.
But football is such a team sport that, like you said, there's every player on that field is a cog in that wheel.
Yes, they are.
And if one of those cogs flies out, then
You're in
it's,
trouble.
Well, even if you're a
you
better
know.
baseball player or basketball player,
get
there is
something out of
something you'll get out of football
Right.
that you can take to that sport.
Right.
But if you don't do it, you don't understand that.
Right.
Hey, real quick before we get out here, we got about 6 or 7 minutes, and Coach, being a football coach, I want to get your opinion on this as well with us, because I know you'll have an opinion on it, and it'll probably be a strong one. Read several reports this week, and it was not only one of our guys sent something to us about this particular subject, and I also read 2 or 3 articles about this very same subject on different sports throughout the week, and that is the subject of NIL when it comes to the price of season tickets for season ticket holders.
Yeah, I've seen all
And
that.
have read several articles where it doesn't matter what the sport is.
Right.
Ticket prices going up times 3.
Yes.
And people that were already paying $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 for seats, now all of a sudden their university's reaching out to them and going, "Oh yeah, by the way, it's going to be $30,000 now."
Well, I think starting with my personal opinion, the NIL ruined the purity of college sports.
Yep.
The NIL, in its format, the way it is now, because they started, there were no rules.
Yeah.
Basically, it was just feast or famine for a lot of these schools. Now they're trying to
Rein
it back in, but you can't really do that at that point.
Genie's out of the bottle now.
Yep,
Well,
exactly.
You can't do that when the universities, I'm talking about the NCAA, asked the NCAA, give us some guidelines, tell us how we're supposed to do this.
Yes.
And the NCAA said,
They don't have them.
Yeah, we don't
we
know.
They don't know.
Figure it out.
We didn't think that far ahead.
Yeah.
And then the problem is it filters to high school. Everything
Yeah.
you see in college sports filters
Yep.
to high school sports.
Yep.
And
You're absolutely right, and you may not be experiencing that over there, but there's high schools out there that are
absolutely.
experiencing that.
there's people leaving and transferring like crazy, and the TSSAA, the legislative board and the board of directors and all that, they just sat on their laurels, and they basically forced the legislature in the state, which really bothered me, because last thing in the world the state legislature needs to worry about is freaking transfer for sports.
Oh yeah.
But there, I know the whole story about who wrote the bill, who sponsored all that stuff, and all it
Well,
went
Georgia's
down.
had to do that same thing.
Yeah, but it's a frustrating point. Look, I get it. You want to transfer? I don't mind a one-time transfer.
No.
Okay, one-time transfer. That's fine after your freshman year. But if you want to transfer again and again, then you go through the process.
Yeah, then it's gonna
It
be
has to be
yeah.
non-athletic. It need to be moving homes.
Yeah.
All that other stuff. But hey, one-time transfer rule, go for it. Get that out of the way, and that's fine. But nobody really wanted to stand on anything, and that bothers me in society as a whole, because people don't want to stand for something anymore, and that's kind of the whole situation of what's really going down.
Well, it's kind of like if you ever, and I did for a long time. I worked in the professional sector for a while. Not that education is not professional, because obviously we go through a lot of stuff. You and I both being educators, but when you work in the office set, the problem there is always, I used to make the joke that we had meetings to schedule our meetings.
Yes.
And the whole reason that we did that was because, just like you said, nobody wanted to be the guy to stand up and go, "This is the idea that'll work."
Yes.
Because that meant your name was attached to that
Right.
idea, and somebody could go back and go, "Well, Scott said
Yeah.
X."
Exactly.
And nobody wants to be that person, good or bad. Nobody wants to be that person that's the one that says, "This is what we
Right.
need to do."
And the other issue is, a lot of times people have a hard time hearing the word no.
Oh yeah.
No. My children heard it a gajillion times
Mine do
growing
too.
up, and I think that's made them better people. They didn't have to always agree with Dad's decision. I don't even think my wife agreed with some of my decisions with them, but at the end of the day, I said no.
Yeah.
And
you're going to abide by
this
that.
is why.
Yeah.
I would always try to tell them why.
Yeah.
I wasn't the big because I said so.
Oh no.
But I wanted to tell them why. This is why I'm not letting you do this.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's hard anymore for people to accept the word no, because they haven't been told no.
Yep.
They
Everything's a
haven't
negotiation.
been held accountable. Yeah, it's all a negotiation.
Yep.
Or an appeasement.
Yep.
And instead of really like buckling down and saying no, this is how things have to be.
Yep.
Getting back to the NIL thing,
go ahead.
I think really what it is these colleges are going to be paying the school.
Oh yeah,
they
got to have money,
and they've got to have money, and they have, I guess, doubled down on the idea of just telling the fans, if you want a successful program, if you want to be able to talk trash to your neighbors,
you're going to have to bleed.
You're going to have to pay for it because we've got to find a way to get these funds, to get these players, or we're going to fall off.
Well, Scott, I first heard this a few years ago that, the AD at Tennessee said, well, we're going to go up $10 per ticket for everybody in the football. I said, well, that's absorbable. But that seemed to get away pretty quickly. Wow. Just something we read the other day from one of our cohorts, a family that's had season tickets forever and a day, and they're being punished right now and what they're asking for.
All of a sudden, we're hearing this college football team spent $20 million. Well, now this one's going to spend $40 million. It's like,
what about the little guy? What about the little guy at Tennessee? He's a Tennessee basketball fan. He ain't missed a game in 60-something years, and all of a sudden he can't afford his tickets no more.
Quote that thing, $1,400 jumped to $4,400 for season tickets.
Yeah,
this year.
And it just, it is what it is. I mean, it really...
And it's here to stay, and that's the scary part
definitely
about
that.
it. So, I mean, and what they don't understand is it's kind of that trickle-down effect where it has changed recruiting in high school.
Yes.
Because it's easier for those larger schools to go find somebody that's in the transfer portal who's already been developed, who's already there, who's proven to stay. Because, I hate to say it, a lot of times, and I saw it playing in the 90s in college, you have that night train. Like, those guys are in there, you go through camp, they're out the door. I mean, they're packed up and gone. And people leaving a lot. And, there's, as a college coach, you've got guys who've played a couple of years of college football. Now they've transferred. They've been kind of developed. You're getting a 20 or 21 year old who's played a couple of years, who's seasoned. Or are you going to put your money on this 18-year-old who hasn't played it down college football?
That's what I was just going to say. I went to a breakfast the other day, and I got to listen to a college football coach talk about that very thing right there. And that's exactly what he said. He goes, I can go to this school over here, and there's a kid who sat for 2 years because the player ahead of him was better. And all this kid wants to do is play. He's just looking for an opportunity to show that he can play. And he goes, and I can go get that kid for next to nothing.
Exactly.
Or I got this, 18-year-old that's supposed to be all world, but he's going to cost me a fortune. That's not a real hard decision.
But I made this statement going back to COVID when they were backing up and teams were getting a hold on to kids. It was going to make it harder for those high school kids, not the elite, but the middle of the
what
road
we call
kids.
tweeners.
Yeah, they were not going to be valued. And I think through the transfer portal now, it's the same way. Well, I'll take a chance on that 4 and 5 star high school kid, but I don't need the 2-star.
The 2-star.
I don't need him.
Those guys, those that are below a 3-star rating.
I don't need that.
They're going to struggle, and those guys that we would call tweeners that we know could play, that a lot of times, like an FCS school or something, would take a chance on. They won't do that anymore. So the recruiting has changed.
That's what we've been telling kids. Like, look, if you get an offer, wherever it is, go. Because first of all, if you're waiting for the Division I, Power 4, it ain't coming.
Exactly.
If you go play anywhere at this point, and there's a bigger college that sees you because they're looking, they'll find you.
You're exactly right.
And I mean, who was it? It might have been a basketball player. It was basketball. I can't remember which one. He just got drafted. NBA, he was a top 5 draft pick. That kid coming out of high school had one offer, and it was to like a JUCO.
Well, I mean,
and then he just worked his way up.
What about Josh Allen?
And coaches have never not preached grades, but to me it's even a bigger reason because the 2s and the 3s are not going to be the door being knocked down for them. You better have an alternate plan.
Well, that and the fact that those guys could go play, maybe FCS or Division II, and then ball out. Now you got your chance to move up. But to get to a lot of now, and that's where it gets tricky because once you start looking at Division II schools, a lot of those become private schools. And then they're held, like I said, a higher academic standard to a lot of them. So now your grades and ACT scores and things are going to matter even more. But
and I remember, Coach. I remember a conversation. you and I were in with Coach Mariakis way back in the Ridgeland days, talking about the necessity, the absolute necessity of understanding as a freshman you can't fall behind academically and then try to catch up. One, catching up is hard, and two, some schools have already turned their heads.
Well, it's that, again, it gets into that whole, at the high school level, if you get a kid that walks in there and they don't take things seriously, people notice that because a college coach talks to you, and the first thing that they're going to, before they even ask, they know the kid's an athlete. But the next thing they ask is, what's the family like and what's his grades like?
But that's preaching that hard sermon to that 14-year-old to understand. This freshman year is important academically.
Here's the other aspect of all that, and I pick on Carson Beck because I think he ain't worth the kind of money that the University of Miami's paying him. But the thing with all of that mess is, this is going all the way back to like watching the Broke documentary 30 for 30 that ESPN did. You got kids that are going to come out of high school with somebody willing to stroke a check to them immediately for a couple of $1 million, $300,000 or $400,000, and a lot of these kids come from nothing. And the first thing that's going to happen is mom and dad are going to pull them to the side and go, well, we got to take care of grandpa, and we got to take care of grandma, and Uncle Charlie needs a new pickup truck, and that $400,000 is gone in a day and a half. And if that kid goes on and never plays a down of any kind of professional football whatsoever, that money that could have set that kid up to have a great life is gone because it's not properly managed.
I think Shaquille O'Neal has spoken on that before when he first got in the league. And how
his
he
dad,
blew
man,
through, millions, right off the bat, and they sat him down. And they're like, son, you are going to be broke. And now he's worth hundreds of millions
almost
of dollars.
$1 billion.
Yeah, the dude has invested and done what he should.
He owns restaurants and car washes.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
He's done really well for himself. So, I mean, that those are things that, and that's stuff that doesn't get taught necessarily. Now, there are personal finance classes in high school these kids are required to take in Tennessee. But at the end of the day, more of that has to be taught.
Yeah.
Budgeting, investment, taking care of your money, living within your means. And that's the thing that, the big thing that we see all the time is, clothes and shoes and things that become so important to a lot of kids and stuff like that. I'm like, you just dropped almost $200 on a pair of shoes. Your outfits cost you X number of dollars.
Yep.
But you ain't eating today.
Yeah.
So, priorities is huge. And being able to teach priorities and delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. Yeah. And I think that is something that's a lost art, and it starts with that handheld device that, everything is at the click of a button and everything is instant, and we got to have it now. Nobody can wait. Nobody can, can work their way into something. It has to be instant.
Yeah, I should get it immediately. Yep. No, you're exactly right.
Where can we see Eastridge scrimmage next?
At home on August 8th. We've got Polk County coming to town. So we have Polk County on the 8th, and we're going to redo our scrimmage on the 12th with Nance and East Hamilton, and then we go to Ray County on the 15th for our last scrimmage game before we play Howard at home on the 22nd.
So 3 scrimmages. And
yes, sir.
Of course, you were in Georgia, and you kind of know the rules. It's 1 if you had spring practice, and 2 if you didn't.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm guessing, is 3 better?
It is, and technically I think you can have 4 in Tennessee. You can have 4 single scrimmages, but if you do those 2 or 3 team, like multi-team scrimmages, then those count as 2.
And you're not involved in downtown's
no, sir.
jamboree.
We're not doing the jamboree this year. I just, I felt like, I'm not going to talk negatively necessarily, but it wasn't. It kind of, numbers wise and monetarily didn't really benefit us.
You felt like you could go do something else and get more
out of it.
Well, and
the jamboree itself is a great idea and a great thing for the community and Chattanooga itself. But we felt like we would get more going and playing a half, kind of what we're doing with Ray. I think we're doing like a varsity half of football.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be live.
Right.
We're going to play a half of football, and then we're going to play our younger kids
With timeouts and everything.
With timeouts,
Yeah.
special teams and all.
Yeah.
So we're playing a game. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
And
you know,
and
get ready.
SCS, let's thank Coach Tim for tuning in tonight. Tim
Yeah,
Lake.
there he
Thank
is. I know
Coach
he's out there
James
watching.
Barger.
We got to get Coach.
We need to get Coach James on here.
Get him
We ain't
down
seen him
here.
in a long time. We
Yeah,
love him. He's
yeah.
one of our favorite people in the world.
Yeah,
So
he needs to come down here
Well,
and make up stories.
I should have
Coach-
brought him with me tonight.
thank you for taking the time to come on with us. We
Yeah.
appreciate you being on with us tonight. We're obviously good luck with the season. We're trying to get everybody geared up as we roll into it, but we want to thank you for being on with us. And just so you know you've always got an open invitation to come back
Anytime,
anytime.
Coach.
You got
I appreciate
the
it.
numbers
Yes,
and
sir.
everything.
Thank you,
Anytime,
fellas.
Coach.
Folks,
Thank you, guys. Yes,
out
sir.
there, we will make an announcement probably here in the next couple of days what day the show will be this upcoming week. A lot of that's going to depend on kind of the same it was with this week. If we can get a guest to have on and talk to you guys, we'll let you know as soon as we know. But we appreciate you guys all watching the show, and we'll catch you guys next week.